Mr. Thompson, Ormat owns the Puna Geothermal Ventures plant on the Big Island of Hawaii. That plant provided about 30% of the power on that island until the lava from Kilauea volcano caused the plant to have to be closed in May of 2018. As you proceed to reopen the plant, I'd like your commitment that your company will engage with the local community and other interested people on the Big Island to hear their views and concerns.
Through the chairman to Senator Hirono, you absolutely have my commitment to do that. Ormat has been proud to operate that facility for some time, and you know it's a compelling story because we often talk about energy security.
Yes.
And it's going to be an incredible success story to say that a geothermal facility surrounded by lava was able to weather the storm, come back online, and whether those geothermal projects are located in the Caribbean and hit by hurricanes, tropical storms, or sit through this, geothermal power plants are incredibly resilient. And so you have my full commitment as we go through the re-permitting process, as we build the new transmission lines. This is really going to be a story of rebirth, and I'm thrilled. I want to take a moment and thank our power plant manager, Jordan Herrera, our senior Hawaiian affairs, Michael Kalakini, for working with the community to bring the roads back, bring the power back up, and bring new life to the kind of eastern Pahoa area. Additionally, what's amazing about that story is that when that power plant went down, Hawaii had to replace 30% of its load, and it did that through the use of bunker fuel. And so the emissions went up, and as the chairman pointed out earlier, the price of oil at that point was quite high. And so I was shocked to hear the other day Helco say the price on ratepayers went up by $2 or $3. Well, that can be a stunning amount if you consume a lot of power. And so we are doing everything in our power to get that facility back up and operating, and frankly hope that the geologic activity that occurred will make those wells hotter, more productive, and maybe we'll see a greater product out of the Puna Geothermal venture moving forward. Yeah. Thank you.
I'd like to thank your company for your sensitivity to the views of the community as well as your commitment to the community. And I'd also like to join with Chair Murkowski in asking the Department of Energy to include all 50 states in its research, like the recent GeoVision report, especially as both Hawaii and Alaska have very significant geothermal sources. Can you nod your head?
Yes, and the challenge there in GeoVision is that we were looking at 3 electric sector scenarios, and the model that we use for that is, unfortunately, a model of the continental 48 states. It is a modeling impediment, let's say.
Well, can you fix that then going forward?
Yeah, we can look into fixing that because...
Yes, please do. Because our 2 states have significant volcanic activity, and as you well know, the entire Hawaiian chain is as a result of volcanic activity, and even as we speak, there is a new island being formed off the Big Island. Not during our lifetime that it's going to pop up, however. So I have another question for you, Mr. Simmons. Now, you testified to the DOE's expanded support for enhanced geothermal systems that require engineering to allow for the movement of heat and water that happen naturally in more traditional hydrothermal resources found in Hawaii. What are the costs of development of a traditional hydrothermal resource compared to an enhanced or engineered geothermal system? And what share of DOE's geothermal budget is spent on hydrothermal versus enhanced geothermal research and development?
So there are, as Paul mentioned earlier, there is hardly any enhanced geothermal systems in the world today. Arguably, they have one of the first and only, so it's difficult to really be able to compare costs because the costs are much greater for the enhanced geothermal systems. And that's the reason that we are working on with Forge to really hopefully drive down those costs of enhanced geothermal systems and make them cost competitive with electricity generally. The breakdown is,
So yes, give me the breakdown.
do we have a breakdown? What is, okay, so slightly over half is on, for enhanced geothermal systems versus the rest of our portfolio. It is a critical area for the future because enhanced geothermal systems expands the opportunity away from only the places with really excellent geothermal resources currently to expand to many other areas.
So do you think that kind of distribution of funding, considering that enhanced geothermal systems cost so much more, do you think that's appropriate rather than, continue to make sure that we're doing whatever we can, research on the hydrothermal side to make hydrothermal cheaper?
Well, currently, I think that this is a good division of resources. If the Senate thinks otherwise, I'd very much like to hear that. If the industry thinks otherwise, I'd very much like to hear that. One of the important parts of my job is to make sure to talk to stakeholders and to hear their perspectives on how we are spending our research dollars. The money spent on enhanced geothermal systems is really a play for the longer-term future, and that's a key area. But also, it is critical that we're working on driving down the cost of what is available today to to continue to make incremental improvements there as well.
Madam Chair, may I ask, as long as we have the panel here, if any of our panelists would like to weigh in on the 50-50 distribution? Yes, please.
Thank you, Thank you, Senator. I'd like just to make a couple of points. One is that there's a significant amount of overlap in the type of research done for the hydrothermal and what the EGS group does. So it's not like that money that is spent on EGS does not have crossover benefits to hydrothermal and vice versa. So I think in that sense, when you're dealing with anything in the subsurface, whatever we learn about these specific geologic systems that are good for geothermal energy is going to be applicable across both. The other is to get at the specific cost question, and I think it's important to understand that there's the ORMAT project and a couple other examples around the world of commercial EGS, but we just don't have that many data points right now. And it's a very early technology, but it has a lot of potential, both in terms of its scale and in its cost reductions. And so if we look at the project like Forge that the Department of Energy is leading, there's technologies that we just have not tried yet for enhanced geothermal systems. And so it's a little unknown of what the true potential could be. And there's a possibility that the cost could be far lower than what we think if these research programs are successful.
I take it you agree, Mr. Thompson. You're nodding your head.
Through the chair to Senator Hirono, I do. I think, for years we have asked the Department of Energy to look at the subsurface research, and that's and what I mean by that is the drilling of the wells. Can we do it more cost effectively? Can we do it quicker? Are there new innovative technologies? I often tell people I'm proud to work for the largest geothermal developer in the United States. We have a market cap of $3 billion. That is smaller than the R&D budget of any oil major out there. And so we can't do a ton of that subsurface R&D. This actually brings me back to a project in Alaska at Mount Spur. We spent $10 million drilling and looking for that project before we had to say we can't spend any more in the exploration phase. So for DOE to spend a considerable amount of their funds to look at how to, and the Forge site, the Frontier Observatory for Geothermal Energy is going to be their playground to look at how do we drill wells differently, how do we deploy new technologies, anything that the industry can take from that and reduce our costs will be hugely helpful. To give you just a basic breakdown, we typically say a 1 megawatt of geothermal energy costs us $5 million. Half of that is subsurface drilling. If we can reduce that cost, that would be huge to the industry.
I understand. Thank you for the clarification. Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just would like to note that for Hawaii, while we do have large geothermal sources, that there are cultural concerns relating to the use of geothermal in Hawaii. And I want to note that because I certainly do not want to make light of those concerns in Hawaii. Thank you, Madam Chair.